Okay.
What time Shiur this week?
What time are we doing?
Yeah, must be about 5 to 8.
I don't know why that wasn't.
So what are we going to say?
What time?
7:05.
On Shabbos you're talking about?
8 o'clock on the dot.
What time is 7:05? What are we doing for Shiur next week?
Shiur will be at 7:05 this Shabbos. Right, she'll be my Sim will be my house, what should we say? Fine.
What about a catering situation?
Probably similar.
You're ordering pizza.
We got this. Absolutely fine with pizza. Do see me? Bunch of girls here.
Okay, you don't need to go.
Done salad as well.
We have a small issue. It's that on Shabbos the Shiur is not going to be very long, and on Friday the Shiur is not very long. And we've got Monday, we have to get a daf ahead. Do the sim on Tuesday? It's a shame to be a daf behind before we start.
Yeah, but it's long enough that we can catch up.
That's true.
Why can't we just do a daf ahead, start a daf early?
No, it was opposite, we're behind.
Hold on, why can't we finish on Sunday?
Oh, so it means that maybe on Sunday,
We'll have a Shiur on Sunday.
no. We're behind. On Shabbos and on Friday, Shiur is very short.
Yeah, we can do more Sunday.
So on Sunday, we're going to do a longer Shiur.
Anyway, it's 7:30. Anyway, it's 7:30.
Because we've got the next minute is 7:40.
Next week is 7:30.
Yeah, let's do it. It's fine.
Shiur will be 7:30.
Oh, if next week, is everybody happy to have Shiur with Mincha Maariv on basis of Mincha Maariv next week is 7 o'clock, the week after 10 past 7, the week after 20
The earliest next week, then it gets a bit later.
So is everybody happy with that?
Then we can have a longer Shiur.
No, it's just Sunday would be a longer Shiur. The rest of the time will be no longer. So again, I'm just summarizing what's been decided. I hope everybody's okay. Let me just say it very briefly. This week,
Right, so what we saying? So when is it on Shabbos this week? I'll put on the
right.
group.
Shiur this Shabbos is after 6:45, Mincha basically 7:05.
Shiur this. Okay, yeah.
Siyum Mitzvah will be on Monday.
Out of the other day.
Yes, 37 Kings Road.
Catering, but so
If you tell me that you want to, okay, we can make it or we can do it. We'll see that. What's right? It's quite good. Question is, really, we should make a siyum sometime with the wives. It's a nice thing to do because a lot of them are wasting nefesh.
Let the wives have it.
Okay, let's get to summarize. The siyum will be on Monday. The Shabbos Shiur is 7:05, and then next week and from the next couple of months, Shiur will be dependent on Beis Yisrael's Mincha Maariv. And it follows next week at 7 o'clock, so Shiur will be about 7:25, 7:30. What should we say, 7:25 or 7:30? Well, the wall says we did in Bochas an hour before davening, an hour davening after, so 6 hours. So 1 o'clock in the morning. Why 7:30? Why? So when do you think it's better? 8 o'clock? But probably is.
For now, until it gets a bit close to you. Soon it'll be very close.
Yeah, when it's 7:30 and we start 10:20.
But a lot of people prefer, I don't know, well, let's make a vote. What do you prefer? What do you prefer? Tolly?
Really?
Yeah.
I can't do it.
For the next couple of weeks,
Levi, what do you prefer? It's right. What about you, Moshe? Say to go.
Yeah, 10 to 8 will be okay.
10 to 8 will be in a couple.
Right, so change it. Yeah, the opposite one. Change. So Shiur will be 8 o'clock. Everybody has to find their own Chamav, depending whether they want to go to. I would like, preferably, the Shiur live after the Shiur.
Why can't we do 7:45 for a Shiur? The moment.
Because we get enough people.
Yeah.
No. Shiur is okay from next week.
And relying on us is never good.
Yeah, we can't rely on us.
We're not reliable.
Not on time. We're not.
Not 10 of us. We don't have 10 reliable.
We need more people.
Wait a second, so Sunday Shiur will start 8 o'clock and it might go.
But you can go on. There's no
Oh, you're advertising for Yuma. Maybe we should put at least some sort.
And we'll have a minion.
What are you going to do? It's too late now to do it in any way. Medois is gone. Advertiser's gone.
What's up?
For £5 for those players.
What's up? Enough people see it.
Yeah.
I don't know how people. I've never had WhatsApp, but I've never understood how it's possible to keep up. People are. Oh, and there's issue. Okay, I should say that. That's fine. No, Shintana, after all.
I've had the messages.
When is it? Sunday.
Sunday, Monday.
Not me.
Okay. Will you put it on the group at least, Tolly, all
Yeah,
this?
for now I've just put share this Shabbat.
And the same Monday, you've not put that on.
And see you Monday at Rabbi Yehuda.
Okay.
It doesn't work with the share.
There's a Shiur tonight on this perek. If we get that after all the. In the Beis Hamikdash, there are 13 stocker boxes in the Beis Hamikdash. Oh, you compare we could talk about charity campaigns. They had 13 going simultaneously.
They didn't have a guide. Put in. Only give Liboy.
But you want again, don't you? You want again. That's what it's probably did.
I'll give to your tribe, but we give to mine.
8 o'clock Monday.
Yeah, why not? I suppose so. Oh, we need to find a guest speaker. Anybody want? Oh, who's being Messiah? Tolly, you being Messiah? Tolly, it's okay. We'll talk about that afterwards. Maybe we should talk about it for 2 minutes after. Okay, there were 13 stocker boxes. You want another coffee? 13 stocker boxes. What were the stocker boxes? Each one was for a different thing. The Mishnah starts off that one of them was for kinin with a kuf, which means pairs of birds. Kan sipoi means a nest, pairs of birds. There's a machlekes in our Mishnah, which birds? Shittas Tanakama, it's the birds which, as Levi said yesterday, a woman has a birth, Zav. These are considered Kine Kapo, which is the Oila and the Chatos. But Rabbi Yehuda says, no, it was birds for an Oila. So the Gemara now explains Shittas Rabbi Yehuda. We're up to Tanya, it's 4 lines from the bottom, you would Chesed Aleph. Tanya, it's a very famous way to start off the Sefer. Anybody know who to Tanya? Shlomo Zalman Liadi, the first Babich Rebbe. Tanya Mabiyuda le Shefa shel Kini b'Yerushalayim. There was no Shefa of these birds in Yerushalayim of Kapo. Why? If they had to over Shematomus Achas and insert Mechates Meses Movis Bohen. The halacha is that if a person needs to bring a Kohen Chatas and he dies, what do we do with the Chatas? Anybody remember? Leave it to die. Starve it to death. No, starve it to death. We starve it to death. Chamisho Chatois Meses. Anybody remember the 5 Chatois Meses?
The person died.
The person died. Timno. Right, Tamura, Misa. Anyway, I can't remember. Nildo. Lost. Abudo. Now, just want to say like this: that Yehuda says a very problematic issue. If we're going to have a stocker box, which all the ladies who give birth put money in, and at the end of the day, the Kohen takes it and buys chatois and oilers, what's the chashash? That one of the ladies will die. And then the halacha is that such a chat is not bought on the mizbeach. So how can you have a one box? It's no good. Bishlam, if it's an oiler, it doesn't matter because an oiler you can bring after somebody dies, but chatos you can't. Faid the Gemara is that shittas abuda or Tanya, or isha shema like the woman that promises to bring a set of birds. But you make it does not say b'shofa. She puts it in the box. Topping is chesed place. One of the halachas is that somebody who's mechusa kippurim. What's mechusa kippurim mean? Needs to bring a korban. I mean, he's gone through the whole process of Tara, but he's not yet brought his korban. He's allowed to eat kodshim. How can she eat kodshim? We're never choshesh that the kohenim are lazy. We are guaranteed that the kohenim brought the korbanos on that day. We're not choshesh that the woman died. So we see clearly not choshesh. The way the Taktichadatin explains is as follows. That you're right, Rabbi Yehuda holds we're not choshesh for a woman dying. Why should we choshesh? Rabbi Yehuda says like this: let's say you have a stocker box where all the ladies put the money in, and then we know for a fact that one of them died. Now you're going to have a real problem because it's not the issue of maybe a woman died. We know that a woman died and she put the money inside. So what are you going to do with the whole box, right? Imagine you got a box. Everybody put, let's say, 100 ladies put in money to buy chatois, and then one of the women dies. Now you got a problem. What did you say? Moshe didn't catch it. Okay. If that's the case, we not. What? No, because which one they gave as a chatos, you don't know which one of the coins it is. Let's take one set of money and throw it in the river, which maybe that's what you're asking. And in that way, we're okay, because
You haven't designated none of those coins.
Oh.
Designated for none. So it's I don't know.
so the question so Gemara says, Rabbi doesn't hold the braver. If you hold the braver, you just take any coins and throw them into the river. Rabbi does not hold the braver, so therefore we don't know. Let's imagine there's 100 ladies. Each one put their coins. That coin belongs to that lady. That coin belongs to that lady. So how can you bring common chatos? You don't know. You should be aware that halacha and ma'isa, throwing money into a river is not good enough. Does anybody know why throwing money into a river is not good enough?
Someone can get it.
Someone can get it. So what should you do? Either to the Melech, the Gemara says nobody gets it out, or you grind it and throw it into the river. To the Melech, or you grind it and throw it into the river. Okay. So anyways, he asked as follows. In Mishnah it says a person says, I want to bring wood. Without specifying how much wood, wood does he have to bring? Anybody remember? 2 pieces, very good. What happens if he especially uses the singular term? It doesn't say Arei Alai Eitz. It says Arei Alai Eitz. Can he bring one? So the Gemara says yes. That indeed each one's a kohen in its own. The Mishnah there in Yoma tells us that there used to be a lottery. And what happened was, we're going to be learning Yoma soon. And the one kohen, what they do is there would be a kohen in a circle, and one kohen would be chosen, and then all the kohenim after him would be given a job. 2 of the kohenim would get a job. What was the job? Each kohen would bring 1 piece of wood on his back. Is a raya that 1 piece of wood is already a korban by itself. Now the Mob tells us, korban, it's very strange. Korban is just one word, but it's the pasuk at the beginning of Vayikra. The pasuk says that if a person brings a korban la Hashem, the word korban is spare. The Rabbi says, so Eitzim, you can bring wood as a korban. So instead of bringing an animal as a korban, you can bring wood as a korban. The thickness of that means the length or the width, it would be an amor. The amor shechekes, with a wide animal. The okon be'amor, the length would be an amor, geduma, a small one. Geduma is like somebody limping, or is missing part of his leg. Shechekes, does anybody remember where the word comes from? What does shechekes mean? That it means a big one. Laughter, very good. How does laughter mean big? Yeah, open. But why does open and laughter? What's the thing to do together?
Smile.
Yeah, you smile, you open your mouth. Very good. So therefore, shechekes is a laugh, which you open your mouth, which is a sign of big. And mashek, when you're sad, normally one says atzuva. When you're sad, you close your lips very tight. You found when you're irritable. So then what happens is it's a short arm. Okay. The Taklin Chadinton says there are 3 explanations what the word tultani means. One explanation is that when you've got scales, you take a piece of wood and you hang on balance 2 things. That piece of wood, which hangs the 2 bowls, is usually very, very thin and very light because nobody's going to waste weight on it. So he's saying that the thickness of the wood doesn't matter. It can be as thin as you wish. That's one explanation the Taklin Chadin says. Another explanation he says is that it had to be like sometimes if you want to smooth, to level off a bowl, you take a very big stick. Let's say you've got a massive bowl and you want to fill it with cement or sand, and you take a wood to slide it off. According to that, the wood has to be much thicker because that wood, to smoothen things out, is much thicker already. Another explanation is that he's arguing with the previous man when he's saying just like a scale is equal in weight. That's the aim of a scale, to get equal in weight. Also, the length and the width were equal. Both of them were amos sechekas. Both were a big amor, not a small amor. Anybody remember what's the difference between a big amor and a small amor percentage-wise? How much? 24th. It's very hard to remember. That means an amor, the difference between a big amor and a small amor is a 24th. What?
2006.
No, that's a different machlokas. An amor has 6 tefachim. And every tefach has 4 etzbois. There's a difference of 1 etzba difference. When you do in halachas mikvois and the makvida mikvah, we take every chumrah possible. So therefore, what we do is we measure as if we said that the volume of a mikvah can be measured as an amor, 3 square amos. So do Sechekes, then you need to know, it's very small difference. That what you had before, Men of Yehuda, about which tefachim we use when we measure the Omen. But the Maisa,
And when we say the Chazanish held, Amma was whatever.
oh, very good. So the Stipler writes that the Chazanish was talked about normal Amma, but Amma Sechekes, you have to add a little bit more. Yes. In Shiur and Shoter, it's a very hard sefer. The Stipler's got a very thin black sefer. Have you ever seen it?
I worked it out, and that's what they say.
What?
It works out to be the Chazanish's Amma.
I know, but if you look in the 59, it's I think you're right. It's 59.6, the exact Amma of Chazanish, and you have to add a 24th, which is 4%, which is how much is 4% of 60 centimeters approximately? 2.5 centimeters. 2.5 centimeters. 2.4. It's 2.4. It says 62 centimeters. It's exactly 62 centimeters. Is the Chazanish big Amma? Okay, but I'm getting a bit off the point. Okay. Levoina, if a person promises, sorry, I missed that line. A few lines. The size of the fire on the Mizbeach was exactly an Amma ban Amma. If you were to look down on the Mizbeach, the article got a very nice diagram. I was very impressed. I tried to get it printed, I did not manage. If you look in the article, if you look as if you're flying over the Mizbeach, bird's eye view, the top of the Mizbeach was 5 Ammas. So how big would the 5 be? You'd imagine 3-4 Ammas, right? Because the 5 mustn't go overlap the side of his back. But no, it was only an Amma by Amma. The reason is like this. Keep track, and it's very important because I have a few places in Shas. Each corner had a horn, a keren, which was an Amma by Amma. Within, you needed space for the keren to walk around the fire. So if you think about it, if you've got a square, one corner is an Amma. The keren can't walk on that. So they have to walk within it. You have to give them an Amma space. So if you work it out, if the top of the Mizbeach, 1 Amma by 1 Amma was the fire, then another Amma around it was 3 by 3 was the Amma for them to walk around. And then you have the corners. If you make the fire bigger than an Amma by an Amma, you're not going to have an Amma by an Amma for the Kohanim to walk around. So therefore the fire on top of the Mizbeach was exactly how, that's right, the corners are cut out. So picture it, if you've got 5 by 5, cut out a square on each side of a 1 by 1, then you've only got 3 by 3, and 3 by 3 is for the Kohanim to walk around, and 1 by 1 in the middle for the fire to be. So the fire was exactly an Amma by an Amma. Meforshim asked an interesting question. Meforshim asked the better question. The Mizbeach of Shlomo HaMelech was much bigger, and they had a much bigger fire. Meforshim explained because when Akshmochu decided what is a donation of wood, so it was established when the Mishkan, and by the Mishkan that was the bigger the size of the fire. It doesn't change much by making a different shape because they would want to have a proper ammo, whichever way you would walk. Okay. Says the Gemara, if a person promises to be bringing Levoino, he should have to bring a kometz. Anybody know when we bought a kometz Levoino? Very good. How many kometz? One of them kometz on each side. Very good. That's where we know it from. Maybe we should do 2 like the Shulchan. The halacha is that if a person brings a kometz from the Shulchan which is missing a bit, he's not yotze. Now we learned from a common mincha where the mincha says that as kol, also there it has to be a full kometz. You could ask the question that if there's lechem upon him, you have 2 kometz. 2 kometz, and if each one's only a half, together you've got a kometz, which is exactly the same as minchas chayta. So why is it possible? The teretz is, the Torah says as kol, the Torah is telling you that each one has to be a full kometz, and that's it. It's a separate kometz. And from there we learn that if a person promises to bring a levoina, he has to bring a full kometz. Now, normally, how big is a kometz? How much volume is a kometz? Is a trick question. Very good. If you've got a big kohen, let's say you've got a big hand, it's a big amount. A small is a small amount. So how big of a kometz would you put on the lechem upon him?
Average.
Biggest as possible.
Why? Explain yourself.
What if the kohen comes to actually do the avodah?
Oh, your mamish. That's what the bastard. You have to get the biggest kohen that could possibly be doing the avodah, measure his, and put it on his ech. Why? Because he might be the one to do it. So if I promise to bring a kometz, the Mishnah says, how much do I have to bring? No, I didn't say it first. If I promise to bring levoina, how much do I have to bring? What's the minimum amount? a kometz. So which kometz do I have to bring? So we learned Gzeir Shalom from the kometz of the Shulchan. So do we say the same logic that just like by the Shulchan you have to bring the biggest kometz? So therefore, if I promise to bring the Levona without specifying, I have to go around and find it. No, so that's a machlokes over here. So Gemara says like this: Omar teaches us. The biggest kohen. He says no. He says the owner's kometz, even if the owner is a Yisroel. But when he promised to bring Levona, he was thinking, I'll do what the Torah calls Levona. And then make Gzeir Shalom Levona, Askor to Lechem upon, and there has to be a kometz. Now you're right that regarding the Lechem upon him, you're going to have to bring the biggest one. But regarding the kometz of you can bring your size kometz, go machlokes size. By the way, no, because you're not bringing a korban mincha or askor lechem upon him. You just promised to bring levona. So shaila is how much levona is considered levona, right? It's a question you should know. Let's say, for example, you promise to give an adova somewhere, and then afterwards you're not sure what's considered an adova. You have to be careful with these things. Yeah, it's different. The question is what you were thinking. Right. Now, one thing, I just want to point out that a kometz is very, very, very small. I've tried many times to do a kometz. I'm sure you take a bowl of flour, go home. It has to be all covered over with between 3 fingers and the palm of your hand. Nothing sticking out from either side. Not allowed to use the other hands. Go in, take as much as you can, and see, and then put it in the bowl and see how much it is. It's not a lot. Okay. Says the Gemara weiter. Zov. If a person promises to bring gold, how much should he bring? What's the minimum amount? Dinner zov. Lo yifchol zov. Oba Lord's wishes kitzur. You mentioned the coin. I'm not kitzur. If you mention the coin, maybe I feel it's to bring a needle. So if you bring a needle of gold, that's enough because I said I bring gold. I said gold. Shishol and the double. The mission then continues. The last 6 were for what? Were for donations. Now the question is, why would you need to have 6 separate stocker boxes for exactly the same purpose?
There were different types of.
But no, we said there's 13. We counted, explained the first 7, and the last 6 Mishnah says the double for a gift. And what's the Mishnah say? Olas kais of Mizbeach, when the Mizbeach is bored, chas v'shalom, so to speak. You mean if there's a lot of people queuing up? Again, the Gemara doesn't suggest that. I'm very surprised.
They fill up quickly.
Oh, so let's see the Gemara. So let's give a few answers. Shishul double. Chizki on market negative shishul but obvious. What happened was there were 24 mishmos, and they split every mishmor into 6 families, and therefore each box was for a different family. Because with each mishmor was a family, but you subdivision, right? Imagine you take a family like Spielman's, go back 5 generations. You go back 10 generations, it could be hundreds and hundreds of people. So you have to split it into like subdivisions. Oh, very good. Oh, what's the answer? So the Mephoshim explains the common aid of Moshe, a very interesting thing that we don't want fighting. Why would there be fighting? Olas kaitz mizbeach, what do you do with it? Burn to mizbeach. But who gets the skin? The kohanim. So if you divide it, one can say, I remember on my day more people donated. So what we do is we divide it, there should be no fighting. That's what he says. It's very interesting because they get very upset with him.
There wasn't any skins. It went.
Somebody asked a question, a very complicated question, but it took me time. It's like this: what's the problem? Why would they be fighting? Because of the skins. Who cares? The Mizbeach had to be working 24 the whole time. So if on your day there was less Olas Kaitz Mizbeach, why would it be less Olas Kaitz Mizbeach? Because there's more Chatois, Shlomim, and other Kabbalas. Then you've gained even more because by a Chatos you get the meat plus the skin. So therefore, why would you be complaining? How could anybody ever complain? Either get less is more. Less is Mizbeach, is more Chatois. So I thought, so the answer is that no, maybe it'd be more Shlomim. Shlomim, the owners get the skins. Now that the Shlomim, the owners get the skins, is actually a big shaila in the poskim. Who gets the skins? So we're getting a time off the point. Point is like this: we didn't want fighting, so we split up into 6 party others. Then nobody could argue less, more, black, white. Weiter. I can't. If you want to give for 6 different kinds of animals, par vegel, older cow, younger cow, the soy. That's a he goat, isle ram, gediva, tle, goat or sheep. Shmuel Omar can get 6 kinds of carbonas. Chatois, ashomois. Sorry, kidezov, kideyoldos. That's 3 kinds of pairs. Adezov, zovis, yoldos. Chatois, ashomois, hamenochois. That's the sefer. So Chatzos Hashem was from one, Amnochas Eifah in two different ones. Asis Eifah was somebody who wanted to give just a special tenth of an Eifah, as it's called like Chavitit. But like what Ben was saying, that there was would get filled very quickly. So they had to make a lot of stocker boxes because they want to get filled. One of the Mepharshim points out the most interesting thing that if you have a very one stocker box which gets over full, money will get stuck in the walls. And in the olden days, money would rust. So if you didn't want that to happen, so you wanted to make it easy, like we should have such problems and money getting stuck. What? Ksiv, the Gemara now asks a question without telling you the question. I remember when I was a child, Hillel Lloyd would be the one to ask riddles. It was always good to him, any good riddles. So I remember one of the famous riddles he used to ask us, who made the first soccer box? Anybody know? Truth is, you're right. It's very likely that Moshe made one, but who do we know explicitly it says? Yehuda Steinberg. It was the time of Yehuda. What happened was that Yosh could be a big Dosh, he was upset, he saw the Beis was run down. It's after Pasha Shekalim. If you ever go to read, if you remember, after Pasha Shekalim, it talks about the stocker box. And what happened was, the pasuk contradicts itself as to where the stocker box was placed. I'm saying this a bit outside, the world's going to say it's inside. One place it says they put it outside Beis Mikdash, one place it says put it inside Beis Mikdash, contradiction. So one man holds there were two stocker boxes, and one was used for the korbanos from Mizbeach, if you want to donate, like I said, animal as a korban, and one was used for the lower, for the Beis, so that's the two stocker boxes. And one says no, there was only one. So the Gemara says this a little bit inside, we're good. And again, the Gemara is relying on the end of the pasuk. The pasuk says that they brought all the money to make kelim for Beis Hashem. He made two stocker boxes. Top of your testament, I've told you very sure the Dov Achas was only one. It says Echod, one. So here we see the stocker box. This is the famous pasuk. The hole in its door. That is literally the first stocker box. Make a hole in the door, and then you open the door, take the money out, and it says only one. How can you say there's one? One says on the inside, one on the outside. How can we answer the Gemara? He made another one from the outside for the Tmim. And all the first you ask the question, so then you're back to square one. No, you're back to square one. Then again, there's only one. And again, there's two. One man says there's two. That man says no, there's only one. Furthermore, it says that there was another one. What's that? That's because of Pnei Tmim. Okay, so because of Pnei Tmim, it's because of Tommy people made another one. So now you're back to two. So technically, Hadith says like this. What he's trying to argue is there was only one purpose for the stocker box, meaning that the stocker box is only used for one thing. Now, you're right, they made in two different places for designating for two different people, but not like the other man, the Omar, that there was one was used for Bedek Habayis, one was for Mizbeach. It was only one, but it was in two different places. The other man says no. The Moshe says like this, that there was only one stocker box. He first put inside Beis Hamikdash, and then he realized there were Tommy people that were not able to donate. So he moved it from inside and put it outside, but it's still only one. So Kitzur's Machlek is when the two stockers are one. It says, okay, so you put it outside Hashem. He holds that they use the money only for Klei Beis Hamikdash and not for Korbanos, and that there was only one, not like the Mandama that says there were two. Which was this again and again, gets more and more clarity in this one than the next. It's like a very interesting period with a lot of different halachas. And actually, the next period continues with this topic of big mazel tov, but we need to get going, as we pointed out. We've got a daf. Now, there were 13 stocker boxes. What happens if you find money on the floor? Which stocker box would you put it in? Very, very good. Now, can I ask you, where would you prove that from the Torah? I know you're going to say it's logical. Where would you prove that from the Torah? Don't look inside. Where would you prove from the Torah? See, even logic, everything has to be proven from the Torah. Where would you prove the fact that you'd put it next to the nearest one? Somebody should be able to guess it. No. If we find a dead body, what do we do? Measure it to the nearest town. Well, who says it was the nearest town? Who says it was the nearest town? No. It's not chazaka. It's because koiv. Something which is close. So if you've got money on the floor, go to this one. Now, just to get things slightly more complicated, what would be if I'd say to you that there's one town with 1 million citizens, another town with only 1,000, and he's closer to the town of 1,000? Which one would you say is more likely that he was killed from? Just curious. I don't agree with you. If he came from one of the two cities, what's the chances the murderer came from the million or the 7,000? Sure, for the million. This is a Gemara we ask the Shaila Roiv or Koiv, which was more powerful, Roiv or Koiv, which was more powerful. Now, this Mishnah does not discuss at all Roiv, only discusses Koiv, which leads to the Forshim to a big question. What about the Mandawan that says that Roiv is stronger than Koiv? Why?
Because it doesn't make a difference. There's a person traveling. It's more and more likely.
The people of the city have to do a kapor. There's a murderer in their midst. Which one would you say is more likely? Okay. Mois. So now, there were 13 stocker boxes. So the Mishnah has to tell us between the different stocker boxes what happens. So Mois, if you find money between a Shekalim and a Dover, I'm going to give away a very important point, which the Gemara tells us, is that the stocker boxes were in a circle. If they were not in a circle, but they were rather in a straight line, if you remember in the last Mishnah, which was read yesterday, it's a long time to remember. So what happened was, the Mishnah tells us there were 13 stocker boxes. The first one was the new Shekalim, the next one was old Shekalim, then there was Kinnin, and then it goes on and on, and then the Dover. Now, if you're going to do it in a straight line, what's the chances will be between the new Shekalim and the Dover? None. It's impossible. It's literally impossible. The answer is it was in a circle, complete circle. So the last one of the Dover was exactly next to the first one of the Shekalim. So that's what the Mishnah means. What happens if you find money between those two? Otherwise, it doesn't make any sense. So most of the Mishnah is the Shekalim and the Dover, the Shekalim, the Shekalim, and the Dover, and the Dover. As Moshe said, whichever one's closest. What happens if it's mechza and mechza? What happens if it's exactly halfway? What would you do? So then we're always machmir. Whenever it's exactly halfway, we're machmir. So what's more chomo? Shekalim on the Dover? Yiplul and the Dover, I'm afraid to tell you, the Dover is more chomo. Now, who wants to tell me why Shekalim? Why is the Dover more chomo than Shekalim? What's the Dover for? What's Shekalim for? Shekalim, sometimes there'd be moisa Shekalim. So that you'd use it for nothing, you'd be used for the walls. Okay, we'll come to it. What's more Kaddish Lavoino Eitzim? Lavoino. Why is Lavoino more Kaddish than Eitzim? Because the wood just burns the Lavoino. The Lavoino is more Kaddish. Very good. Between the Kinim and the Geis La'ola, Yiplu. No, again, because they're going to Kinim, Yiplu, Kinim, Kobi goes Yiplu, goes Ola. Mechsa, Yiplu goes to Ola. Ola is more important than Kinim, the world discussed. But the Chulim Lamaisa Sheni. Now we're discussing a new story. Nothing to do with the Beis Hamikdash. You're sitting at home and you have the money which you put aside for stock up, and you have money, or Maisa Sheni money, and money which you for your own wallet. And you find money on the floor. So they've got a general rule, which I hope is very clear. Says the Gemara, how could you have such a thing? How are you going to have between Shekalim and the Dover? It's going to be Shekalim Shekalim. Answers the Gemara, they made it like a circle. Since they made it like a circle, so therefore it's possible to find between Shekalim and the Dover. Says the Gemara, the Dover. Is to pay me, why should you go to the Dover? Should be Shiur Alishka? Because Shekalim could end up going to the Shiur Alishka, which means it goes to the walls of Yerushalayim, which is certainly not so Kaddish. It's to pay me, my mechza can be Beis. The halacha is if somebody dies, then what happens is we give it to the Dover. So therefore, over here, since it got lost, it's as if the person died. We don't know what to do with it, so it goes to the Dover. Or if you say, I don't know, Tamon, while I was there, so Shom is called Yehuda, Shalish Shmon, if it's Shekli Meis, I'm going to put in the Dover. There's a certain Gemara which comes up a few times in Shekalim. This is already the second time, it's going to come up the third time. That the Kohen Gadol would bring every day Asir Se'efa. And what happens to the leftovers of Asir Se'efa? The Meforshim asked why it keeps coming up. And the Meforshim was saying because it's Rabbi Yassa who says it, if you look at 3 lines, which is Rabbi Asi of our Gemara. And since Rabbi Asi said it, whenever we mention Rabbi Asi, we mention his statement. Mois Asir Se'efa should Rabbi Yehuda Marich Min HaMamelech, but also by Yiplu Nadav already wants to mention this machlek because what to do with the leftover the Asir Se'efa Kohen Gadol. We said in our Mishnah that Moisai Kinin should go to an oila. Kinin, he said in our last paragraph, what was the Kinin used for? Yoledes. Yoledes is half chatos of oila. You can't use a chatos for the oila. There's no such thing. Answers the more Chizkiya Ochi B'Shem B'Shem Lokish tonight based on our Moisai Shukavo oilos. The halacha is that the Chad Beis will make a condition that anything left over from a chatos should become an oila. Basically, would make such a condition when you makdish something. But this lady, for the rest of her life, she never bought a chatos again. She put money in the box. For some reason it slipped out and it fell between. We said it was closer to the oila. We put it for the oila. What's going to happen? She will never be able to eat kachim. She doesn't know about it. She can't eat kachim. I said more. This is a very interesting halacha. That if you were the shopkeeper providing for the Beis Hamikdash, at the end of the day, they would count the amount of kabbalas that was supposed to have been bought. And if there was some missing, you would have to provide those which were missing. We talked about it once before. Some became possible, some became went bad. If you worked for the Beis Hamikdash, you had what's called like a rough deal where you had to provide anything that went wrong. So therefore, even if the money was falling on the floor, we'd give it to the owners, and if at the end of the day we'd see the missing chatois, the owner would have to provide it. Gemara asks, why does the mission not mention ben keteros le'etzim le'levoino le'zav le'kapev? Sorry, ben keteros le'etzim le'levoino le'zav le'kapev. They should tell us that what would happen between these three other places if the money drops. The Mishnah doesn't tell us all the different cases. The Mishnah only tells us some of the cases. And so, that means the way the Mephoshim explain is, the Mishnah doesn't tell us every single case of what happens to the money. We have a general rule. The general rule is, whichever one is closest, if it's exactly halfway, we go lahachbit. So why does the Mishnah need to tell us the cases that it does? We'll work backwards. The last case of the Mishnah is to Ma'aseh Sheni and Chun. The chiddush there is, even though it's not in the Beis Hamikdash, but it's in your own private home, we stick to these principles. The other case, the chiddush is, the first case, go back to the first case, the chiddush is Nedava and Shekalim. The chiddush is that Nedava is more chomer than Shekalim. You might feel Shekalim is more chomer because it goes Kodesh Kodeshim. Kamashman, it might be Shiur Alishka, so therefore Nedava is more chomer. Regarding the chiddush of Eitzim Levoino, the chiddush is that the Eitzim is more chomer than Levoino, because you would have thought that Eitzim gets completely burned and it's a bigger measure. You might thought it's more chomer, Kamashman, no, because it's only to burn the Levoino. And the final chiddush is which goes le'olah to kinim. There, the chiddush is that the moisar chatos can be bought as an olah. Okay, we'll have a minute to enjoy the chaim. And wait a second. So, I hope there'll be a mav. I don't know. Is it going to be a mav? You never know. I need a mav. You're not waiting. Is the kubba now?
Yeah.
So we've got 4. You've davened, Tolly?
No, I'm going to
I need 7.
We've got 7.
I can't have. I was not feeling well. Get to a terrible cold and it's going to my kitchen. Yehuda, Tolly, what should we do about guest speaker? That's quite easy to decide. Should I ask Chalik this? I don't know which one you've ready. What? Shmuel Schwartz. Shmuel Schwartz spoke in Yom Tov. Who spoke in Yom Tov?
Yeah, you know Shmuel from
Yes, I know Shmuel Schwartz from Chadiche.
It's good.
You prefer him over those two?
I just know him well. I don't know. He's a bit more interesting. Shmuel's good? I don't like Shmuel.
Right.
Okay,
so I'll ask him. I'll ask him. Right. So Shmuel Schwartz.
And Yehuda, are we going to speak to Yomi
right.
or not?
What breath? Can you speak to him, see what he will do it? But will you be able to provide everything else except? Was that very difficult? You did that last time. You're very busy these days.
Not doing the kiddush this week.
He needs an excuse to get out of the house now. Last time he didn't. So off you go.
The chalas and the chalas.
Okay, so wait a second. We'll go.
All right.
Right.
No.
Yeah, wait, 5 minutes.
Fine.